In A Song of Ice and Fire, knighthood is often associated with shining armour, noble houses, and banners flying above stone castles. But most knights in Westeros live far from that ideal. They ride alone, without lands or titles, sleeping wherever they can, selling their sword for food or coin. These men are known as hedge knights. They exist in the margins of Westerosi society, legally knights, socially expendable, and constantly at risk of falling into obscurity or disgrace. Understanding hedge knights helps us understand how knighthood actually works in Westeros, not as a romantic ideal, but as a harsh and unstable profession. Hello everyone, and welcome to Storyteller's Codex. Here we delve deep into the rich lore of The Lord of the Rings, A Song of Ice and Fire, and the vast worlds beyond. On this channel, we blend the soothing power of cutting-edge technology with the timeless knowledge of dedicated storytellers. That's us, the voices behind the Codex. Settle in, relax, and enjoy. A hedge knight is a knight who owns no land, holds no lordship, and has no permanent household. The term itself comes from their lifestyle. Hedge knights travel constantly and often sleep outdoors, under hedges, in barns, or beside the road. This is mentioned repeatedly in the Hedge Knight and later Duncan Egg stories. Importantly, hedge knights are legitimate knights. They have been knighted according to custom, sworn the vows, and may legally call themselves Ser. What separates them from landed knights is not honour or skill, but resources, or rather, the lack of them. One of the most important distinctions in the books is that knighthood is not the same as nobility. Knights are warriors who swear religious and moral vows, usually in the faith of the Seven. Lords, on the other hand, inherit land, titles, and political power. Many knights are second or third sons of noble families, but many others are common-born men raised up through service. Bronn, for example, is knighted during a storm of swords, but remains socially suspect despite the title. A hedge knight sits at the bottom of this hierarchy, beneath landed knights, beneath lords, and often barely above sellswords. Most hedge knights begin their lives as squires. In The Hedge Knight, Dunk served Sir Arlan of Pennytree for years. When Sir Arlan dies, Dunk knights himself, following his master's instructions and trusting that the vows matter more than witnesses. This is not unusual. In the books, battlefield knighthoods are common. A knight may dub a squire in the chaos of war, knowing he may not survive the next hour. Other hedge knights are created when a knight loses land or favour. A fallen house can turn a landed knight into a hedge knight overnight, and then there are false knights, men who are never knighted at all, but wear armour and claim the title anyway. The books repeatedly show how difficult it is to prove legitimacy once you are on the road. Life as a hedge knight is defined by movement. They travel between villages, castles and tourneys, constantly searching for opportunity. In The Hedge Knight, Dunk enters the tourney at Ashford Meadow because it offers food, shelter and a chance at prize money. Tournaments are one of the few ways a hedge knight can rise quickly. Winning even a single tilt can bring coin, armour or the attention of a lord. Most of the time, however, hedge knights survive by short-term service, guarding caravans, serving as household knights for a season, or fighting in local disputes. Every expense matters. Armour breaks. Horses die. A single injury can end a hedge knight's life entirely. Because hedge knights have no lands or banners, reputation is everything. In the Duncan Egg stories, we see how quickly rumours spread. A knight who breaks his vows may find every door closed to him. One known for fairness may be welcomed even without coin. This is why hedge knights often cling more tightly to the ideals of knighthood than high lords do. They cannot rely on birth or wealth, only on how they are remembered. This also explains why hedge knights react so strongly to insults or accusations. Without honour, they have nothing left. War creates hedge knights and consumes them. During conflicts like Robert's Rebellion or the War of the Five Kings, many men are knighted for bravery and then released back into the world once the fighting ends. Lords are willing to accept hedge knights during war, when manpower matters more than pedigree. Afterward, those same knights are dismissed without land or protection. In A Feast for Crows, the aftermath of war leaves the roads filled with wandering fighters, some true knights, some pretenders, all struggling to survive. To the small folk, hedge knights are unpredictable figures. Some behave like true protectors, others act a little better than bandits. This uncertainty is reflected in how villagers react with suspicion rather than gratitude. Among nobles, hedge knights are often dismissed as failures, men who could not secure land or favour. Even when treated politely, they are rarely trusted. Other knights may look down on them as reminders of how easily knighthood can collapse without wealth behind it. Yet despite this, hedge knights remain common across Westeros. Quick spoiler warning before we continue. From this point on, we'll be talking openly about major events from the Hedge Knight and later Dunk and Egg stories, the material that will be adapted in A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. If you want to go in completely blind, now's your chance to pause. For everyone else, Ser Duncan the Tall, or just Dunk, is the single best example of what a hedge knight actually is in practice. He starts with nothing, no famous name, no land, no coin and armour that barely fits. What he does have is the memory of Ser Arlan of Pennytree, who raised him, trained him, and taught him what knighthood was supposed to mean. Dunk is not clever. He's not politically aware. He doesn't understand courtly behaviour or noble games. But he believes, very literally, that knights are meant to protect the weak. This matters, because in A Song of Ice and Fire, that belief is rare and dangerous. At Ashford Meadow, Dunk enters the tourney for practical reasons: food, shelter, and prize money. He knows he's out of place among princes and great lords, and the story constantly reminds us how small he is socially. But when he sees something wrong, he doesn't hesitate, and that's where everything goes sideways. Prince Aerion Brightflame is cruel, entitled, and completely convinced of his own untouchability. When he assaults a young puppeteer girl, threatening her simply because he can, no one intervenes. Everyone understands who Aerion is, a Targaryen prince, and therefore dangerous to oppose. Dunk steps in anyway. He tells Aerion to stop. When Aerion refuses, Dunk hits him. This is not bravery in a calculated sense, it's instinct. Dunk sees a knight abusing power and reacts the way he thinks a knight should. For this, he is beaten, arrested, and charged, not for lying, not for theft, but for striking royal blood. Facing mutilation or death, Dunk invokes his right as a knight and demands a trial by combat. This part is important. Dunk does not ask for a trial by 7. Aerion does. Aerion twists the tradition, demanding a trial by 7 specifically because he assumes Dunk will never be able to find 6 knights willing to stand beside him against a Targaryen prince. From Aerion's point of view, this is perfect. Either Dunk forfeits, or he dies surrounded by better armed men. It's arrogance disguised as law. At first, Dunk stands alone, and this is where the story becomes something more than a personal conflict. One by one, other knights choose to stand with him, not because he's important, but because they believe he's right. Sir Lionel Baratheon joins him. So does Sir Humphrey Harding. Others follow. None of them gain anything by doing this. In fact, they risk everything: their lives, their favour, their futures. This is the moral core of the story. Honour spreads when someone is brave enough to act first. The trial by 7 is violent, chaotic, and costly. Knights die. Armour is crushed. Dunk himself is badly injured and survives largely because others fight and fall beside him. Aerion Brightflame is defeated, not because Dunk is exceptional, but because Aerion is wrong about people. He believes fear rules everything. He's proven wrong, and crucially, Dunk is not rewarded with wealth or safety. He gains scars, enemies, and a reputation that will follow him forever. That's hedge knighthood in a nutshell. In later Dunk and Egg stories, Dunk continues to behave the same way. He protects small folk during uprisings. He refuses to abandon innocence even when doing so would be safer. He repeatedly places himself between power and cruelty. Despite royal connections, he remains uncomfortable with politics and titles. He never becomes smooth, never becomes clever, never becomes detached. He stays a hedge knight in mindset, even when circumstances change. Dunk shows us what knighthood looks like without excuses. He gets things wrong. He misunderstands situations. He breaks social rules constantly. But when it matters, his instincts are solid. He doesn't explain away cruelty. He doesn't justify abuse as necessity. He doesn't hide behind rank. That's why Dunk matters. Not because he's perfect, but because he's sincere in a world that isn't. Hedge knights matter because they strip knighthood down to its bare essentials. No castles, no banners, no inherited power, just vows, choices, and consequences. Through Ser Duncan the Tall, George R.R. Martin shows us that the truest test of knighthood doesn't happen in courts or tourneys, but on lonely roads where no one is watching. And that's why hedge knights endure, not despite having nothing, but because of it. If you're interested in The Lord of the Rings or A Song of Ice and Fire, click one of the links on the screen to dive deeper into the lore. Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you next time.